Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a very interesting show for you. We're going to talk about a national analyst who believes Tennessee fans have been duped into believing that we've got a good team. Now, needless to say, I'm going to go heavy into this. You know, when somebody comes out and makes that type of statement, I'm going to dive right in. Let's get into this article that talks about that. But, yeah, this national analyst just pretty much said we don't have a very good team and we've been duped. Wrong. And this was written the other day by one of my favorite writers, Zach Reagan. He picked up on this one. And if any of you know Joel Klatt, he suggested that Tennessee fans have been duped into believing that the UT football program was an upper echelon SEC team after winning 11 games last season. Klatt thinks that Tennessee just happened to have great players last season, and that's why they won 11 games. And Klatt went on to say, last season was such a high for Tennessee. He says it really was. First double-digit win since 07, which was the Philip Fulmer era. They did everything right. Everything came together. He said, and Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, who he only played 3 games, by the way. He had the high ankle sprain. Darnell Wright, even the way the defense played at times, was good. And you know what? You know how you should feel as a Tennessee fan? Duped. You got duped. You got totally duped. Because guess what? You thought the program had elevated to that point. Upper echelon SEC program, not the case. You had some upper echelon talent, and there's a huge difference. Says Joe Milton is not anywhere nearly as good of a quarterback as Hendon Hooker. That's just a fact. He said, I like Joe Milton a lot. He said the wide receiver group is not Jalen Hyatt and company like last year. The defense has not been up to par. You got duped into feeling like your program had arrived at a level in which it had not arrived. Says a few players took you to the mountaintop and duped you into thinking that the entire program was on that mountaintop, and it's just not the case. So he's decided after a couple of ball games that we're no good anymore. Now, I will admit our offense is struggling big time, and there is a big difference between Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton. Joe is a quality pocket passer. That's what he is. He's not a dual threat, and he doesn't throw well when he scrambles. Those are just facts that you really can't argue. He's got a really big arm. He can throw it forever. And sometimes he's quite accurate and sometimes he's not. And the thing with Joe is when he's in practice, he wows everybody. Eric Ainge, I remember 2 years ago, was like, this guy's unbelievable. He's NFL level. But when he got in a game, he was overthrowing people. And so Hendon Hooker wound up taking over the job, and then the rest is history. The last 2 years were phenomenal. But this offense is why this offense is so good. We're just having a tough time in a few areas, but really the main area is quarterback. Now, I do not think Joe should be benched because I think he's played well enough. He's not played great, but he's played good at times. But I do think we need to see what we've got in Nico, the #1 player in the country last year. His high school coaches think he's capable of winning a Heisman. That's how highly they think of him. So we want to see him. And hopefully we'll get to over the next game or two. You don't want to get it. I hope it doesn't come to the point to where we kind of got to put him in, not because of injury, just because, the record. But I would like to see him early in probably like the 3rd series, 2 series with Joe, 1 series with Nico, maybe 2, and then another 2 with Joe and another 1 or 2 with Nico. I think that would be the most positive way to do it and have a true quarterback competition and see how they perform under the lights. Because if you'll remember Josh Dobbs was no good in practice. The coaches didn't like him in practice. He just wasn't able to get it done. But when the lights came on and he was able to run and do all the things that he would do, he was great. So you don't know what you've got until the pressure's on, the lights are on, and you're playing real football. I know there's a concern about getting him hurt. There's always a concern of getting a player hurt. He's 205 pounds. He came in at 190, and he's 6'5". So he is a tall, somewhat skinny, lanky kid. But I can also tell you Bryce Young was 5'10", 170 pounds when he played as a freshman for Alabama. And also Peyton Manning played as a Heisman. He was a skinny kid. So there's plenty of players, especially at quarterback, that have played as freshmen. That's the risk you take. Anybody can get hurt. And if that's the case, if he's too fragile for that, then let's see what we've got in Gaston Moore. Gaston Moore looked great in the spring game. He was moving the offense quickly. He had good touch on his passes, and he could scramble. He loves scrambling. And he knows that offense like the back of his hand. He's been with Heupel for 3 years. So we need to kind of, in my opinion, just my opinion, I would open up the quarterback competition and see what's there. And if Joe wins it out on the field, so be it. Then we stick with Joe the whole time. If we've got another player that can play better, then we probably ought to look at going with him long term. But right now, we're not getting it done. And the reason I know this is because we averaged 46 points last year. The last 2 games, one of which is Austin Peay. The other is Florida, which is not the top of the line SEC. We averaged 23 points. This team cannot operate with 23 points per game. That will not work. We will have a terrible season if that's the case. We've got to at least be in the mid-30s. I know we're not going to be able to do 46, but can we do 34, 35? That would be about a 30% drop. We can't have a 50% drop. I'm just telling you, if we average 23 from this point forward, we're looking at 6-6. And that could be the case. If we average 35, we're looking at 8 or 9, maybe possibly even 10 wins if we can average 35, but not at 23. It's no bueno, won't work. And by the way, just to give you an idea of how national analysts are, this is another national analyst that is giving his opinion on one Hendon Hooker. Now, the one guy just said Hendon Hooker was basically the elite of the elite, and that's the only reason we were good last 2 years, especially on offense. Well, now here's another national analyst. Let's see what he thinks about Hendon Hooker. Let's see if they're and this will give you an idea of just how all over the board they are, arguing one point and then counter-arguing the exact same point totally differently. It's these two things will not mesh.
NFL. So when we're projecting all of the guys out of that offense to the NFL, it's abstract. Like you're talking, the wide receivers. It's like, well, like he's having to answer. The wide receivers now are having to answer. Oh, I can run routes. I know how to do it. But like you run 3 routes in college. Hendon Hooker is operating this like theoretical offense where you're only ever reading half the field, and it's not even like a full half field read where you're working through a progression. It's like it's just an either or concept. Like you have a crossing pattern of some description, a route concept that goes against the defense, and all you have to do is decide, do I hit the left guy or the right guy? It's not playing quarterback. Liar! It's doing something different. So when you're looking at Hooker and saying he can be QB5, which a lot of people are, it's because he's got prototypical size, more or less, because he's got speed, because he's got all the tools. But projecting what he's doing in college from an offensive point of view to what he's going to have to do in the NFL is barely even worth attempting because the offense is that absurd. So if you're using like touchdown to interception ratio, you're just wasting everybody's time because that's like irrelevant.
Yeah, it's not the stats. If you want to make the Hendon Hooker argument, it's watch him against Alabama, watch him make the 20-plus yard dig route against Bama to get into field goal range. Like watch him. There are a couple NFL throws in there that are nice.
Yep. See, Hendon's no good. He shouldn't even be going to the NFL. So one guy's arguing he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and the other guy, it's just the system. It's just the system. Well, if it's just the system, then why aren't we killing it right now? You've got to have the right guy in there. The system's a big part of the success of the offense, and we've shown you that many, many times. This is Josh Heupel's offense the last 7 years. These are the 2 years he was offensive coordinator, and here's where he was head coach. 43, 43, 42, 39, 46. So when he's head coach, he averages over 40 points per game the last 5 years. When he was offensive coordinator, look what the team did. Went from 13.6 to 31 when he took over as coordinator. Look what happened here when he was head coach. Went from 21.5 under Jeremy Pruitt to 39. Okay? Okay. So he knows what he's doing. He knows how to get you to the elite level. Right now, we're struggling in a couple of positions. Our offensive line needs to play better. Having Cooper Mays in there will help a lot. We need to start playing at the speed we're used to. Right now, we're having to look to the sidelines for 15 seconds. We had to call 2 timeouts because we ran out of time. Name a single time last year when we ran out of time. Never happened because we were go, go, go. We can't do that right now. And we're throwing sideline pass after sideline pass. We're not throwing it forward that much. And occasionally when we do, he throws a dime. But it's not been accurate enough. We need improvement at the quarterback position. Joe needs to play better. I'm not blaming him and saying we're losing because of him. Look, it's a collective thing. It's a team thing. But he needs to play better. And I know his numbers look okay. But when you're throwing 15 passes to the sideline, it's going to help your completion rate quite a bit, and it's going to help you get yardage because basically that's an extended running play. So we're going to have better play out of there. We need Cooper Mays. I think that will help our pace of play quite a bit, and it'll help up front because we're getting hurt on the interior with some blocking that's not getting the job done. Florida had their way in that interior, and that really caused problems for Joe. As far as our defense is concerned, it's about the same as last year. I was looking for improvement, expecting it. But last year we averaged 22.7, 29 the year before. So we had a nice improvement from one year to the next. But 22.7. The last 2 games we've averaged giving up 21 points. So it's about the same. The big difference is going from 46 to 23 on the offense. The defense is not great, but it wasn't great last year either, and we went 11-2. Our offense has got to pick up the pace. They've got to go faster and play better. And if it's not going to be Joe, then it'll have to be Nico or it'll have to be Gaston Moore. But that's got to be solved first and foremost. And if Joe plays better, perfect. That's nothing better for me as a YouTuber because I'm going to take a ton of grief for even mentioning that we might ought to open up the competition to quarterback play. And I understand that. Joe is very popular. Everybody likes him. Everybody. If you don't, there's probably something wrong with you. He's been super loyal. He's been a great teammate. All the players like the guy, and rightfully so. But if he doesn't get the job done, at some point you've got to open the competition and see if somebody can play better. If they can't, then keep Joe right on in there. I want us to do the best we can every year. But 23 points a game, last 2, I'm just letting you know that's not going to work, period. It won't. And you can blame the defense all you want. They're doing the same thing they did last year. So it is what it is. Anyway, I just thought y'all might be interested in hearing what the national analysts have to say. And as usual, they're all over the map, but we have not been duped. The last thing I'm going to put up with or listen to is that Josh Heupel's not the man. I'm telling you, I've watched enough football and I've seen this guy's track record. He is the man. We have the perfect head coach for our team. He's got a transition problem right now. He's got a 5-star sitting on the bench who may not quite be ready. He had Hendon Hooker last 2 years. He obviously recognized Hendon Hooker's talent and that he was ideal for the position when he made the change. We're in a transition. Joe's either got to step it up and play at a higher level, which he's capable of doing. The guy's got all the talent in the world. If not, then we need to open up the competition. And I hope Joe plays really well. That's ideal for me as a YouTube content creator. That would be perfect. I've said that the last, I don't know how many months, that that's the perfect scenario for me. But I'm not going to stand by and watch a struggle and then go, well, everything's fine. You know, we've got to play better. We just do. Otherwise, this is going to be a disappointing season. And I don't want to go through that. I've only been doing this 1 year, and last year was a joy. It was an absolute joy. I handed out so many A-pluses that it was ridiculous when I did my report card, and I want to do that again. But I've not been able to do that very much at all. And at this time, I do want to thank this video sponsor. That's Eco HVAC. This company has 3 different locations, and that's Lenoir City, Jamestown, and Dunlap. As you can see, Lenoir City's right next to Knoxville. They cover that entire area. They can handle all your HVAC needs, plumbing, heating, all types. And they're actually fans of the channel. They wanted to support and be a sponsor. And the reason I'm talking about HVAC, I'm going to tell you something. If you've ever had your unit go out, there is nothing worse in the summer or the fall when it's 85, 90 degrees and your house turns into an oven. It'll make you sick as a dog. It just flat out will. And the older I get, the more important it is. And what causes that for your unit to go down, and typically a big bill, is you're not maintaining it properly. It's just like a car. If you don't maintain it on a regular basis, you're going to have something terrible happen. So they have a great maintenance agreement. They've actually just set up a special deal for the first 15 people that call that mention Sports Talk Jay. And the package includes 2 visits, cleaning, and a 21-point inspection. Also, you will get a special UV air cleaner that they use in hospitals. It's over $1,100 value. You'll get that for free. That's part of the package. So if you do call, make sure you let them know Sports Talk Jay is where you heard it from, and they'll take really good care of you. And the thing about Eco that they really pride themselves on is speed of service. They feel like that's really important. And there are times when you just need to call the man.
Just call the man. Just call the man.
Absolutely. Don't sit around and wait to the last minute and then have some big, huge bill. That has happened to me in my past, and it's not fun when you have to replace a whole unit because you didn't maintain it properly. I'm not saying I did that, but I'm saying I did that. So anyway, set yourself up for a good maintenance agreement. That way you won't have all these problems. And don't be like Aunt B.
Why didn't you call the man?
I should have called the man like you said.
Exactly. Call the man. Give Eco an opportunity to take good care of you. They have very good ratings, 4.7, 4.8 on Yelp and Google, and you can check those out yourself. Take care of your HVAC because it'll take care of you. All right, folks, hopefully we get this all turned around against UTSA. We'll find out if Frank Harris is going to play. He does have that turf toe, And that turf toe injury, if you've ever seen or heard of it, what happens is, say this is your toe on the front of your foot, and it gets hyperextended, and typically it's when you're pushing off. And once that gets hyperextended, it'll either hurt or it'll hurt real bad. And what Frank Harris has done is obviously he's probably torn some of the tissue right there. And there's 3 stages of it. There's 1, 2, and 3. He's probably a 2 if I had to guess. I don't know that for a fact. But you can be out for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. It just depends. And there's a lot of pain involved in it. Now, they've got an off week after this, and then they play their first conference game. So they may rest him because they've got the off week and say, let's give him another 2 weeks, and then he gets to closer to 100%. Or he may play. You know, Frank Harris is a baller. He's very good. He had 39 touchdowns and like 8 interceptions last year, and he's a field general. But they do have a quite good backup quarterback in Marburger, who threw for 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and like 250, 260 yards last game against Army. That was a losing effort, but that's because Army ran the ball down their throat. And Army is a great running team. They're a quarterback who is a running back who happens to throw. And they ran all over them, and they had 0 penalties. Army is so disciplined. Imagine having 0 penalties in a game. It's almost impossible. So, but they did end up losing that game. I think it was like 38-29. It was actually pretty competitive. So we'll see whether or not Frank Harris plays. The Vols should handle UTSA. We'll see how it goes. It's at Neyland, so we're not going to have all that crowd noise that causes problems and causes the false starts. And we'll see how the team plays. Hopefully they bounce back, and then we'll have a big game against South Carolina. And Spencer Rattler is balling out. I'm going to tell you something. He's probably playing better than any quarterback in the SEC. I have no doubt of that at this point. And he's going to come in here confident as can be. So we're going to have to be ready for South Carolina. That's going to be a real test, and we'll see how that goes. If you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover the Vols and the SEC and opponents and all that. If you've not subscribed, it's on your right, my left. Right there, hit that little button. Costs you nothing. Helps you get my videos. Just makes it simpler. And right over here's the most recent video that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy based on your viewing history. Something to do with the algorithm. I don't know rhythms. Anyway, we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.